Right, the inside track here at Grange Hill Farm alongside Sam Twiston-Davies. Sam, approaching the big spring festivals, how would you rate the season so far from your perspective?
Yeah, obviously happy. We've had some nice winners. I'm probably quite spoiled as it is because as the seasons pass, you normally have ridden a few more winners. So down winners-wise, but actually things are really starting to turn a corner now. Have some good winners recently, and I think we've got a nice group of horses coming through, which is quite exciting. So I think it's very much keep your head down, keep grafting away and see what we can do.
Yeah, as you say, people don't remember how many winners you've ridden. They remember what they are, and you've been there to the forefront on the big Saturdays. We saw it with Our Power the other day. I Like to Move it the previous weekend. That must bolster your confidence going into the spring.
That's it. It's a nice time of year to be riding those kind of winners, as it gives you confidence going forward, not just in yourself, actually in the stables you're riding for as well. You know the horses are in good nick and everyone's actually going in on a real high to what is an incredibly competitive week.
How long have you had a licence now?
Long time, since I was 16.
You don't want to be reminded.
I don't want to say it.
Yeah. But I'm sensing you're at the sweet spot, really, of having been riding at the top level for quite a long time, but still pretty young. It's a good slot to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice position now. Whereas, kind of, I've obviously been and worked for Paul and had great times, and obviously had lots of ups and downs. Whereas now you go racing and you kind of know what you're doing and how every individual track rides, and a good confidence in myself and the people I ride for. So you actually go racing, and yes, there's going to be bad days, and yes, there's going to be good days, but I think the nice thing is everybody I do ride for wants to achieve the same thing, which is good horses and as many winners as possible.
And it's evident, really, from coming here, and it always has been to me, that and not everyone can actually have a good professional relationship with a member of their family, however much they love each other. Yeah. But you and your dad, or Nigel as he is to everybody, you do seem to have a great rapport.
Yeah, I think it's taken a bit of time. Obviously, with going away to pools and such, and then obviously coming back, I actually have learned the best way to deal with things is just to be as honest as we can. And we will have our disagreements, but it'll only take 5 minutes. And there's only one the other day. Something didn't go as I saw, and I was a bit upset of how it ran. Swore at each other. 5 minutes later, we ring up and apologise to each other, trying to solve the problem. So it does work. Admittedly, we both blow hot originally because we want the same thing, and that's to win. So when we don't, it's obviously trying, and then we push each other's buttons, but we can work it out in the end.
And the interesting thing is that you probably, having grown up with it, weren't really appreciating what was going on around you. To what extent now do you think, this guy can actually train horses pretty well?
It's for. When the new one left, I was like, what on earth have we got? Where are you going to find one from? And obviously then he had Bristol, he was fantastic, and that was brilliant. And then he's now managed to find, as Bristol's gone and retired beautifully, he's found I Like to Move it. And that's every kind of time he needs a stable store, he has managed to pop one up again. And I think it's just credit to the man that he keeps generally believing himself. And a lot of these horses, like the new one and such, they were store horses. They were bought on him just going to the sales and punting on what kind of he likes, and it's ended up working. So much time for that, and walking around the sales of him is quite an interesting way he operates. And it's
so how does he operate?
Works. Well, there's actually a chestnut horse there you can barely see over the stable door.
What, the little chestnut with the white face?
So that is actually in the Doncaster sales bumper, 100 grand. He's after finishing second and winning a bumper. And he just literally watched him walk around outside, walked in the ring, and said, I liked him. And I was like, what? This is tiny, you don't want that. Anyway, he bought him. We all laughed, of course, named it after one of his youngest son. And then it's ended up being one of the better ones.
What's he called?
He's a no risk at all horse. He's called Norman Fletcher.
Norman Fletcher.
Yeah.
There we are. So he's one to look forward to for that big bumper.
Yeah,
Who knows? He might end up at Aintree or something, or Punchestown. Who knows?
He's got a penalty now, and he's not the biggest. But at the end of the day, he's proven he's worth a good amount of money now, and he can go for 100 grand sales bumper with a chance, which is the dream.
Brilliant. We ought to talk about I Like to Move it. I'm just thinking he's only had the 3 runs this year. Could you conceivably have quite a busy spring with him?
Well, I think it's quite unfortunate because the races that were most to suit him have all been called off. So the International was probably the one we really wanted to. It's a valuable race, stiff too at Cheltenham. There's a lot to like about that. So that was obviously gone, and then we went and tried the Rail Kill rather than taking on Constitution Hill and the Christmas Hurdle. That was probably a mistake, and now we've ended up being lightly raced, and looking forward to what is Cheltenham.
Yeah, absolutely. And that win in the Kingwell, a tremendous springboard to a productive spring. Did he add a new dimension to his game that day, do you think, or did the horses behind him just not turn up?
There's probably a little bit of maybe the other two maybe just didn't quite turn up to the level. But as Dad said, it was kind of funny because they can't both have not turned up. It wouldn't be. But I think he did step up, and he was proven he's actually a little bit pacer than we've always given him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And he did actually all just kind of turned it on. And I think that's what's nice going forward, is that we know we've learnt more about him. 2.5 is definitely not a direction we need to be going back to in a rush, but same time, he's just very lucky to have him.
There's some nice young horses around this place. I mean, I Like to Move Its owners have got horses like Idalco BU, and they've got Master Chewy as well, haven't they?
I think next season could be quite key now. We've got a lot of these horses will be jumping fences next season. I Like to Move It, Idalco BU, Master Chewy. Weveallbeencaught. Like next season could be a big one, and that's why we're very lucky now. We've had a good season without it being fantastic, but there's more to think. Like a lot of these horses are now going to go and do what they were bought and bred for, so it's quite exciting.
And Weveallbeencaught is, the apple of everyone's eye. A grand, big, giant, sort of old-fashioned horse, but one with a big engine, big heart, lots to look forward to. Where's his game really going to be, and when do you think?
I hope 3 mile chasing. What division is? I hope he's going to end up being better than the handicapper. But it's quite entertaining after Leopardstown. We sat in Burger King with a pint of Moretti each, looking across at the table, thinking, what on earth has just gone wrong? So it was quite an entertaining conversation, and obviously got him back home. And you're looking at everything and every aspect of that trip, and there's obviously bits we wish we could change now, but at the same time, it's like he's still a beautiful horse going forward. He's got a right stamp about him and a bit of a presence, and hopefully he can be a good one for years to come.
And do you sort of hang yourself out there and think, well, we were the ones who dared to fly our tiny little Union Jack at the Dublin Racing Festival, and we got completely humbled?
Yeah,
or do you just think, right, that horse hasn't given his running today?
Yeah, that's the only pleasure we kind of took out of it. At least we finished last, and that if you'd have finished third or fourth, you'd have said, right, we weren't good enough, which would have been hard to swallow. But luckily, we were finishing where we finished, and the way he finished his race out, that wasn't him. So that's the only kind of saving grace we had, is that we know he's a hell of a lot better than that. Whether we travelled him a bit close to the race, whether it went a bit hard, whether the ground was too good. There's so many variables that we believe that we can get him a hell of a lot better, and we will see better again, thankfully.
In terms of your own outside contacts, Charlie Longson's given you plenty of rides this season. Rare Edition is an exciting horse. Are we too quick to forget him after the Sydney Banks?
I think you only have to look back at Kempton's results this weekend to see Rhubarb go and win as he did. And you have to think back to Boxing Day. The performance Rare Edition put up over him was fantastic and really pleasing to the eye, and as a jockey to sit on was quite spectacular. So for me, the Sydney Banks, he ran a nice race. I've almost in my own head just put a line for it, because I think he's a hell of a lot better than that.
And he never really seemed to kind of get into his rhythm in the Sydney Banks.
No, we winged him out in front. There wasn't any pace. He went to sleep early. And then just for whatever reason, the middle part of the race made a few little mistakes, whereas at Kempton he jumped beautifully. And actually from kind of 2 down, there was no real response, which actually really kind of made me think, because at Kempton actually got after him. It was incredible what he did. So to not be able to do that over 2.5 when you've set relatively steady fractions through the middle half were quite interesting. So I hope he had put up a lot better performance.
Sam Thomas has been a great ally to you as well, and to win on our power the big handicap at Kempton Park last weekend, how much pleasure did that give you?
Oh, a great buzz. Not obviously Sammy's fantastic to ride for, but for Di, James and Jean, they've been fantastic supporters of mine for years, fantastic supporters of racing for years and years. So obviously for them to be having nice winners is what they all want and what we all want, but to do it together was lovely. And got this little dream now that he'd be a great spinner in a national. He's quite quirky, he's got little ways of going, but obviously first and foremost he'll go for the Ultima and hopefully have a chance.
Yeah, he needs quite a few to come out in the Grand National, but he's kind of shoved himself up the ballot at least by winning last weekend.
That's it. So hopefully it's an interesting race to look at the National, because yes, he is obviously 61, 62, 63, whatever he is, but there are trainers with a lot of entries. May Gordon be persuaded to go to the Irish National with a couple? Obviously, naturally, as you start to push a few more buttons of horses, not everything goes smoothly. So I hope, keep my fingers crossed, he can scrape in, would be the dream.
I know you're not expecting the ride on the real whacker at the spring festivals, but you rode him in one of his victories round Cheltenham, and he was good as well. And that was the victory really that pushed him to prominence. Is he the sort of horse you think that can genuinely have a chance in a Grade 1 race?
I think what gives him his greatest chances is the way he conducts himself. He's a fantastic jumper, races just behind the bridle, never over races, and he was doing that over a trip they thought was a little bit short. So hopefully the 3 is obviously going to suit him better again. Fantastic jumper, lovely way of going, good attitude, and even then he had ducked out a little bit at the run-in and lost a good bit of momentum, and he still won as he did. So I think there's a hell of a lot of positives to say he could run a massive race, but obviously your Irish horses come over and running the races. It's hard at this stage to look at the entries and work out who's going to go where, but you're fairly sure he's going to go there, and whatever he does, he's going to have a chance.
Well, in the present and for the future, there's much to be excited about. Sam, good luck for the remainder of the season, and well on all your success so far.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
It seems like yesterday that we were here at Grangehill Farm talking about how I Like to Move It might fare this season. Fast forward, 3 runs under the belt, 2 wins. Nigel, Sam, en route to the Champion Hurdle. You must be pretty damn happy with how things are going.
Very happy. You know, I put him down as a horse to follow, and we were right. You know, he's improving all the time.
Is there anything that he's done in these 3 runs that has surprised you in any way?
Yes, the race he was beaten in, you know, we thought he'd stay all day long, but it didn't suit him 2.5 miles. And, you know, we learnt a lot from that.
Sam, I was quite struck that day. I was watching the beaten jockeys interviews on ITV, and immediately you came in, you had a big smile on your face. You said, not worried about that at all.
Yeah, no, he's an incredibly likeable horse to do anything with, and from quite an early stage, it wasn't really suiting him. He wasn't getting any sort of rhythm, and you're doing everything totally opposite to what he'd kind of be used to. So from a very early stage, I knew I wasn't overly happy, so didn't have too hard a time of it. And thankfully, he's come out and proved us all right at Wincanton after.
And of course, what you do know is that he does like Cheltenham because he won the Greatwood so well under top weight. Just talk to me about that day, because it was an unusual type of race. They missed out hurdles. There ended up being a long run in. You know, he had to do quite a bit of dirty work.
Yeah, it was. We were on the front end wanting to be aggressive, knowing that we thought he stayed the 2 well. Then obviously when obstacles are taken out, it's never ideal, and you're turning in for a very long run in. But he was very honest, galloped out well, and just has a great attitude, which suits. But it seems a bit ironic now. We always thought a stiff 2 suited him well, and he's gone round one of the sharpest 2s in the country around Wincanton, and has been his most impressive performance yet. So I guess it just shows he's actually got a little more pace than we probably give him credit for.
I mean, how did he feel around Wincanton? Did he feel like a very quick horse?
Yeah, well, we got a nice even gallop everywhere. Obviously had the right ones in and around us, turned in and sat on my bum and gave him a kick in the belly, and was quite astonished actually when I saw the winning distance, because no way did I ever think it'd be that. And he was very, very responsive and jumped well over the last 2, and it was just an incredibly taking performance, and one that truly took me by surprise.
I mean, everything you two have always said to me about this horse, ever since he came into the yard, that he's just a very kind, generous horse. He wants to do it for you.
He does. Yeah, he's been a joy the whole time we've had him. You know, he's getting up there in my all-time favourites.
Really? And that takes a bit of doing, doesn't it? I mean, there'd be some horses that the public have really warmed to in this yard as well. I mean, you just retired Bristol and May, but going all the way back to the Young Hustlers and the Captain Dibbles and Earth Summit, you know, there'd be some lovely, very popular horses trained here, and you're really, really fond of him.
We're very fond of him. Yeah, you know, everything's all gone brilliantly, and hopefully it keeps improving. You've
had experience with Champion Hurdle type horses as well. I was interested the other day that you brought the Khyber Kim comparison into it, because he was a really quick horse.
He was very good. And you know, hopefully he's going to come and mend all these things that have gone wrong in the Champion Hurdle for us, you know, because we were with Khyber Kim. You know, he was in the race with Binocular, was sent away because Nicky said he couldn't get him to the races. He disappeared to Ireland for 2 weeks, came back again, then won the race. So how did that happen? We don't know. And then we had the new one. Again, we thought he'd win that year. A horse fell in front of him and wiped him out. You know, and he galloped on to finish 3rd. You know, Champion Hurdle's one that hasn't been kind to us, but hopefully it will this time.
Was that the missed year? when Arcana fell in front of the new one? Was that the one that got away?
Kind of thought so, because that's probably when he was at his sharpest. Obviously, as you get a little bit older, you kind of lost a little bit of pace, so he was finding the middle part of the race in the latter years, obviously a little bit harder, but that year was the one where you were sat in a lovely position quite comfortably, and then obviously to drop back a handful of lengths and then stay on as he did was the one that felt like might have got away, but at the same time, he was always a fantastic horse and a pleasure to have, but hopefully a little bit smoother this year, but just the one obstacle of obviously State Man and Constitution Hill look quite tricky, but he'll give his best whatever happens.
Do you think this fella will travel round for you better than the new one? Would he take you forward more at that trip?
Yeah, he's a pacier horse, so he's probably a little bit easier ride. As if there is a genuine good gallop on, you can sit just in behind them and keep it good and smooth. But at the same time, if there was very little pace at all, you could put yourself in a position where you can sit on the front end. So he's just a very likeable horse to ride because he's very incredibly straightforward.
Right, here's a question for you. It could be a pretty small field when it comes to it. You might get half a dozen. Do you ride to try and finish second, or do you ride to try and take him and serve it up to him?
I think you ride him to do his very best to what we know he can do. It's obviously Constitution Hill is fantastic. You saw that in what he did in last year's Supreme, and obviously all his performances this year. So you just ride your natural race, as Carl kind of instilled in us at an early age. You do what generally you believe suits you to run to the best of your ability. So Constitution Hill is tanking off down the hill. No point taking him out of his comfort zone to try and go faster than he's comfortable, and hopefully he'll finish well.
Are you liking what you hear from your stable jockey here?
He didn't ride that many winners, so he's not allowed to not like it.
Does he take a view when it comes to tactics?
Not anymore. It's been beaten out of me by.
Yeah. I was trying to remember the last time he actually gave me instructions. He's very good.
It's been beaten out of me.
What, by both of them?
By all these horrible jockeys I've had.
I mean, of all the horrible jockeys you've had, I mean, how does his horribleness rate?
Oh, absolute top. Horribleness.
I can throw quite a strong strop after something doesn't go to plan. I would, yeah.
Every horse that gets beaten, he gets miserable. He takes that on me. Well, I'm just as miserable, but I have to not show it.
Yeah.
Do you tell him how to train him as well?
Not anymore. I give it up on that. It's probably vice versa. He's given up trying to tell me how to ride, and I try and leave him to the training now.
Well, good news is you seem to have done it right with this one, by hook or by crook.
Good combo now. We've worked it out after all these years.
If we can wake him up in time for the champion hurdle.
Yeah, good boy.
He
knows
bored
what
him
it's
to
all
death.
about.
He's gone to sleep.
He knows what it's all about. We bored him to death. I like to move it. He will come alive on Champion Hurdle Day. But can he just give Constitution Hill something to think about? Well, there's no doubt that here at Grangeshaw Farm, I Like to Move It is the team captain for the Cheltenham Festival, but there's a nice little supporting squad. It's smallish, Nigel, but it's select, and I know you'll be quite keen on some of their chances. Where do you kick off? Apart from I Like to Move It, what else do you run the first day?
The first day, we've got the Ultima. We've got Beauport, who's entered. He may go for the Kim Muir. Could be either. Have to talk to the owners and Carl, who helps them. See what happens there. Good boy Bobby in the Ultima. He's had a very light season, and he's really ready for that. So a bit more rain, the better. So it could be. So the fact that you've got two entries for Beauport is the idea that because you've already got Good Boy Bobby, you can split them, or how do you play that? If it suits them both, and where the owners want to go as well, we're open and flexible. What about the jockey? What would you do with Beauport? Clearly, you wouldn't want to run him in the amateur riders race, would you? Yeah, no, but actually Jordan Naylor rides him, and so he's his ride, and that's that. Yeah, Daryl Jacob obviously rides Good Boy Bobby, so hopefully I'll be on our power and power past the pair of them. Would be nice. Friendly rival. Between the two. I mean, you know the horses very well though, and you can take a completely impartial, objective view. Beauport strikes me as quite a classy horse to be running in a Kim Muir, for example. Yeah, he obviously started the season fantastically up at Carlisle, beating some incredibly smart horses, jumped well. Obviously, Haydock didn't really happen, and then Cheltenham last time was obviously a learning curve. Whereas Bobby has actually was paying for almost having a fantastic season last season, has come down the handicap, and he's really starting to show a good bit of life and a good spark at home. So out of the two, obviously they're both lovely horses, but
incredibly straightforward horses, good jumpers, experience. Obviously on Bobby's side, big field handicaps, whereas Beauport is completely unexposed.
Everyone's asking if we can have some rain before the festival. There is a bit in the forecast. I'm guessing you'd want that for Beauport, wouldn't you?
Oh, certainly would. For every one of them, we definitely want rain. Watered ground isn't ideal. The proper stuff from above is the best.
Okay, so you wouldn't really mind how much it rained between now and the festival. It would help you if it was on the softer side.
Oh, I think so. Yes.
Okay, so that's Tuesday done. What about Wednesday? Who's likely to be in the team for Wednesday?
Just one for us. Master Chewy, who's slightly missed things have gone wrong for him all season. It's his first time over 2.5. Anyway, him for the Ballymore.
He's going to run in the Ballymore. He'll be a big outsider, but is he good enough to at least run well?
Oh, I think he is, yes. And the whole idea that the 2.5 we think will bring out the excellence in him now. Okay,
well, you say excellence. I mean, does he show quite a bit? Does he show quite a bit here at home in his work? And
he does, always has done. And there was, I can't remember what date it was, but at Ascot, he was absolutely motoring home in a 2-mile hurdle and overjumped at the last and fell. That was a good performance that day. And yeah, he's okay.
You quite fancied him in the big race at Newbury, Master Chewy, didn't you? What do you think went wrong that day?
Well, ground again, too fast. It's a problem all season, the ground too fast. And yeah, it just didn't happen.
And actually, Sam, he didn't run that badly, did he?
No, he ran perfectly respectably. Obviously, it paid to be on probably the front end that day, as we saw. Nick Schofield was fantastic on the winner, whereas we elected to kind of be a little bit further back, and he actually made up quite a lot of ground and did it quite well. So be hopeful, obviously, if there was a bit of rain, then hopefully he'd see the trip out well, and you could just ride him to run well and see a little bit more about him.
I mean, I remember you winning and springing surprises in Cheltenham novice hurdles. I mean, Arctic Kinsman's the one that springs to mind, but you've had plenty win or run well in them. Do you think it can actually bring them forward? You go in there as a 50-1 shot, but can actually bring them on a bit?
Yeah, I think so, yes. All you have to do is get the horse there as well as you possibly can. Yeah, Arctic Kinsman 50-1 upgrade. What was he for the Triumph? That was brilliant.
Well, he was a big price as
well. He was a big price too, yeah.
Right, next Thursday, what's happening?
Well, Thursday we've got a bit of a one we think would run really well. A horse called Super 6 in the plate. Could struggle to get in, but he's low down in the weights. He's only rated 129. If the races fall apart a bit, he'd have a really good chance.
Now, I remember two years ago, maybe 3 years ago, coming here, and Super 6 was one of your brother's flying machines, wasn't he? Didn't he start him off in the...
Yeah, broke him in early, and then obviously came down and he won his bumper at Hereford. Jack Savage rode him, and then obviously he actually finished 5th in the champion bumper, and obviously things have gone against him since, but hopefully now we've got everything ironed out and he could keep progressing.
So he's got a bit of quality for a horse rated 100, just the wrong side of 130.
Yeah, just spent a lot of time learning about him, and obviously he'd like a lot of rain, but I think more so just learned about him and what kind of ways to ride him and such, and hopefully now we've got the right kind of mix.
So one for the Willie Twiston-Davies Academy if he comes through.
That's it.
Okay, we're keeping our fingers crossed that Super 6 makes it into the plate, because it sounds like he could be an interesting horse, and he's in form. And of course, race like that, so many of them aren't actually in form. Yeah, they've got their marks, and they're not coming into the race really firing.
Absolutely, no, he's definitely on the up.
Okay, right, on we go to the next bullet to fire.
Friday, we've all been caught in the Bartlett. Went over to Ireland, bit disappointing. The ground was probably too quick, and it was a very, very good race. But back over his favourite track, Cheltenham. Longer, 3 miles. Hopefully we'll see a better horse again.
But given how highly you've talked about this horse, and he was brought to win the Gold Cup and all the rest of it, are you simply prepared to raise the white flag as regards Ireland and say, yeah, we weren't good enough, that's that?
Yeah.
You are? You're quite prepared just to say that's as good as he is?
No, because he's an absolute top horse, but maybe 2-6, good ground, hurdles, isn't going to prove the best of it.
Yeah. So you're getting a proper stamina test here. I mean, it looked to me in Ireland like he just didn't really offer you anything when you asked.
We went over there and we didn't want any excuses. We winged him out the gate. We were aggressive everywhere. The ground didn't suit. Maybe if we did things differently, we could try different things. But we just wanted to do what we thought would see him run his best race. And maybe going out and being incredibly aggressive on good ground maybe didn't end up suiting. But he's come back since. Everything's been fine. And now we can generally go back, and it's like almost in a funny kind of way, it takes a bit of pressure off the Albert Bartlett, because you can give him a normal ride, nicer ride without having to be so forceful, and hopefully that will see him then finish off better and show actually what we can kind of see at home.
But you still keep the faith that this is a very, very good horse.
Just the way this form has worked out indicates it in its own right, from his bumper to obviously in behind Hermes Allen when a lot went wrong at Cheltenham, to then his maiden hurdle at Cheltenham. I mean, he's just a very, very incredibly likeable horse to deal with, and then obviously his form is working out nicely. So I think if he can keep progressing, look, this is him here. This great big horse. He's going to, whatever he does do this season, it will be just an enjoyable one, just ready for when he jumps fences in the next.
Nige, after you run him, well, actually, you might run another one in the Albert.
We got
Idalco
Bihu, who was very disappointing last time. As it turned out, he had some muck in his lungs and things like that. Later on, we discovered he was quite sick. He's come back really bouncing. He's got to take his chance. So we think he's a very, very nice horse. Hasn't had the smoothest of runs to it, but let's see.
And he was third in the Challo, wasn't he? I mean, that, and as you say, that form has worked out incredibly well. Like the second, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, or whatever, they've all won and won well since.
Yeah.
I mean, did he give you? Did he strike you as a horse that could cut it at the top level that day?
Well, it was a race of great strength and depth, as you've seen with the way the form has been working out since, and he was strong at the line. He had a lovely kind of way of going throughout the race. So I hope going forward it'd be a lovely one to kind of keep an eye on. But it's one of those that luckily he's come back with something against him since. So going forward, he's definitely one to keep on the right side of.
All right, so we've got Idalco Biu in the Albert Bartlett. We've all been caught in the Albert Bartlett as well. I'm guessing you'll ride.
We've all been caught just through obviously his. Not just obviously this day alone is important, but his future is going to be massive. So I think obviously just to try and keep that relationship intact is obviously would be key for us.
Excellent.
And we also got one Zambella in the mares race.
You might be saving the best till last.
We could be. She was fourth in it last year. Didn't have the best preparation for the race last year. This year we've been thinking much more about having her absolutely right for this race. Could be the best for last.
And how close do you think she'd have gone if she hadn't tipped over a couple of years back?
Again, very close. She's proved year in and year out she's the best over 2.5, the best British mare. Obviously the Irish have got a lot up their sleeves, but hopefully it will be good enough.
Yeah, saying you're the best British horse in any race at Cheltenham, it's not a massive ringing endorsement these days, is it?
Tricky, isn't it?
But she's a class act.
She's a lovely way of going, great attitude, her jumping's really come together. I think it's obviously a pleasure to watch her go around Doncaster, beating a lot of the obviously very good English mares. Maybe Huntingdon wasn't quite to her liking, sharp, right-handed track. Maybe went against her, whereas hopefully a stiff 2.5 Cheltenham, bit of rain turned up. You never know, but obviously incredibly tough opposition, but she'll give her very best.
Listen, all of these have got to overachieve to a greater or lesser extent to get near the winners' enclosure, but there's no reason why one or two of them can't really take a big step forward. If you were going to say, right, I think X or Y horse is overpriced or could run really well or is in the form of his life or her life and can figure this year, who would it be?
I'd like to move it.
It's a big shout.
Big shout, but we can't. It mustn't be frightened of one horse. I know there's more than one, but the real one, let's have a go.
And you feel that there's still just a little bit more there.
Let's hope so.
What do you think? I'd agree with what he's saying, but I'd be a little bit more. We've all been caught, been forgotten about for the Albert Bartlett now. There's a lot less pressure on him. They can do things totally the different way. But then actually, probably the more so for not just Cheltenham, because obviously it's going to be incredibly tough, but for one to keep an eye on for next season would be Master Chewy. I think he could be quite exciting in the 2-mile novice chases. Just he's an incredibly pacey horse with a really high cruising speed. And I think that could possibly see him go to another level.
All right, Sam, thanks so much. Nige, thank you very much. Looking forward to Cheltenham for all the horses here at Grange Hill Farm. And there is no doubt in this man's mind who the key horse is.